Tonight, President Trump's war on waste goes to Capitol Hill.
This is not a Democrat problem. This is not a Republican problem. This is an American problem.
Congress holds its first DOGE hearing on government efficiency. And about face,
the bloodshed must stop.
A change on military policy concerning NATO. What it means for the war in Ukraine. Plus, Jewish exodus.
Zionists, they are filthy animals.
I get death threats every single day.
How rising anti-Semitism has some Jews reconsidering their future in Great Britain. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Capitol Hill takes on President Trump's fight to slash government spending. Good evening from CBN's headquarters in Virginia Beach. I'm Wendy Griffith. Well, the war on government waste took center stage on Capitol Hill, with the first hearing focused on the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Although it began with talk of bipartisanship, the questioning fell along party lines. Capitol Hill correspondent Michelle London has been following this throughout the day and joins us with the latest. Michelle.
Well, good evening to you, Wendy. Republican Chair Marjorie Taylor Greene opened today's hearing by calling wasteful spending an American problem.
Not only are we $36 trillion in debt, but the compounding interest on our debt is also growing out of control. These interest payments don't serve a single American. They don't build a bridge, a road, provide disaster relief, or fund a single part of the behemoth that is the federal government.
Taylor Greene says the debt grew during the Biden-Harris administration due to the expansion of Medicaid spending and pandemic funds being, quote, rushed out the door without proper oversight mechanisms in place. Former FBI Special Agent Stuart Whitson testified that many programs operate under a so-called honor system where applicants get money without having to verify identity, making it difficult to prevent fraud. Now, he suggested repealing Medicaid rules that prohibit states from checking eligibility status less than once a year. Rep. Melanie Stansbury pointed out that each Democrat member is ready to roll up their sleeves on the issue. Still, she questioned why Republicans are trying to scoop up savings by, quote, dismantling certain agencies, which she argues gives the largest tax break to billionaires. Stansbury then challenged Elon Musk to pay the House a visit.
But we're not here to play. If you have serious desire to engage in democracy and transparency, we welcome you to the Oversight Committee. Come and testify in front of the American people under oath, because we want to know what you're up to.
And this is just the first of many DOGE hearings to come. Wendy, there are so many moving parts to this effort. Much of this is happening in the courts, where multiple lawsuits right now are being filed against recent moves by Elon Musk and his team. Wendy.
Thanks, Michelle. And joining us now is Ryan Bourne with the Cato Institute. Ryan, great to see you. Let's start with the basics. What exactly is DOGE, and why has it garnered both scrutiny and support across the political spectrum?
Well, during the end of the presidential campaign, President Trump announced this creation of Department of Government Efficiency, and for a long time, we didn't really know what that would look like. A few weeks ago, he passed the first executive order, which essentially rebranded the U.S. Digital Service as the U.S. Department of Government Efficiency. And the idea seemed to be that this new department, headed up by Elon Musk, was going to prioritize, try and improve software and technology within government departments, and to really review federal employees and personnel. Now, it's become clear since then that Elon Musk and President Trump have much bigger ambitions for DOGE, and really they want to create almost a like small cadre of different DOGE representatives across the government that are going to be looking for ways to eliminate programs and downsize federal agencies.
President Trump has framed DOGE as a way to trim waste and streamline the government, but you say that's not enough. Why?
Well, it's not enough. I mean, there's certainly a lot of waste and fraud that goes through the federal government. Even the federal government's own GAO has highlighted somewhere between 250 and 300 billion dollars worth per year of waste. But if you're really serious about eliminating the $2 trillion deficit we're currently running, and that's what Elon Musk says that he wants to do, you really have to re-examine some of the laws that have gone through Congress that have created much bigger spending programs. And some of those huge spending programs like entitlement programs, defense spending, and other things. You can cut back on US foreign aid, you can cut back on some aspects of the Department of Education, and it may be worth doing those. But that is not going to eliminate a $2 trillion deficit. For that, you've really got to think more deeply from first principles about what government should be doing and eliminating whole programs and whole agencies.
Ryan, is Elon Musk the right person to head up this job? I mean, he's known for disrupting industries like space travel and electric vehicles.
Well, I mean, sometimes it takes a fresh pair of eyes to look at things in a different way. And he's certainly been innovative in the way that he's gone about it so far. Everybody in Washington would say, do reviews of existing programs and see what is surplus to requirements. Whereas he's gone in from the other end of the spectrum and tried to look, first of all, where federal employees are currently working, how many of them are needed, but also looking through existing payments to see what money is going out and where that money's going and if it's being put to good use. So he may well find things that wouldn't have been identified if he'd have taken the traditional approach. That said, if he really wants to eliminate that federal deficit, ultimately he's going to need the help of Congress. Congress needs to step up and help DOGE. And the only way of eliminating $2 trillion worth of spending, really, is to change laws that currently facilitate huge spending programs and lots of regulation.
Ryan Bourne with the Cato Institute, thanks so much. Interesting topic. We'll have you back. Thanks.
Thank you.
A win for President Trump on Capitol Hill. Tulsi Gabbard confirmed as Director of National Intelligence. The former Democratic Congresswoman faced GOP resistance over past ties to Russia, Assad, and NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden. A National Guard Lieutenant Colonel and 2020 presidential candidate, she now oversees 18 U.S. intelligence agencies. In other news, President Trump says he has spoken to Presidents Putin and Zelensky about ending the war in Ukraine. The White House team is expected to meet with the Ukrainian president in Munich Friday. The announcement comes after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth urged NATO leaders to abandon their hopes of restoring Ukraine's pre-2014 borders and instead prepare for a negotiated settlement with Russia.
The United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement.
Deal with Russia should be backed by an international force, but not U.S. troops. An American history teacher deemed wrongfully detained by Russia is back home in the U.S. Mark Fogel was greeted at the White House by President Trump earlier this morning, the administration calling his return a diplomatic thaw that could advance negotiations to end the war in Ukraine. Senior Washington correspondent Tara Mergener is here with us now. Tara, this emotional homecoming was really years in the making, wasn't it?
It was, Wendy. The 63-year-old from Pennsylvania was arrested in 2021. He says he feels like the luckiest man alive thanks to President Trump and his team for making this homecoming possible. Fogel kissed the ground in gratitude once back on American soil and arrived at the White House with an American flag draped around his neck. He was serving a 14-year sentence after Russian authorities accused him of smuggling drugs, despite his family's claim that he was carrying a small amount of medical marijuana. Surveillance footage shows him at a Russian airport while trying to enter for a teaching assignment. The State Department declared him wrongfully detained last fall. His 95-year-old mother appealed directly to the president for her son's release. Malphine Fogel says she was set to take the stage with Trump on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania, when an assassin opened fire. Meantime, accused Russian money launderer Alexander Vinnik is reportedly being released from U.S. custody in exchange for Fogel. And Wendy, the president says someone else will be released today.
Wow, the Trump effect. It's amazing what's happening in just a few weeks. Thank you so much, Tara. While Mark Fogel is finally home, the relatives of Israeli hostages are still fighting for their loved ones. Today on Capitol Hill, hostage families urge leaders to help free the remaining captives.
First stage is bringing the remaining women, children, and elderly, and we have to make sure that all the other remaining 76 of them, our brothers, fathers, sons, our soldiers, and the remains, will all come home.
All right, the White House is standing by its ultimatum to Hamas: release all hostages by Saturday or the ceasefire is over. Hamas has delayed the hostage release indefinitely and accuses Israel of violating the ceasefire by obstructing the delivery of supplies into the Strip. Israel denies those claims. Coming up, inflation is up again. What it means for your wallet when Faith Nation returns. Welcome back. Inflation was higher than expected in January, signaling that the Federal Reserve's struggle to control rising costs is far from over. Consumer prices rose 0.5 percentage point from December, bringing inflation to 3%. The rise was boosted by shelter, gas, and egg prices. The news means interest rate cuts are likely on hold and underscores the challenges ahead for President Donald Trump. Well, Mark Hamrick joins us now. He's Washington Bureau Chief and Senior Economic Analyst for Bankrate.com. Mark, great to see you today. Mark, why was today's number higher than expected?
Inflation is a monster we have not been able to wrestle to the ground, and the Federal Reserve had some reason to be increasingly confident through the last part of last year, cut interest rates 3 times, and of course last month opted to leave interest rates where they are. And now there's increased speculation that the Fed may not be cutting rates much, if at all, this year. So it's really all about the data. We see sticky services inflation. You mentioned a couple of culprits there. One of the ones that is continuing to bedevil people is the cost of car insurance, and that has been affected by all the climate disasters, people needing to replace automobiles and filing claims after the flooding, blizzards, those kinds of things. And of course, most recently, the California wildfires. And it's also keeping a steady level of demand for new and used cars. So there are plenty of offenders here. Of course, bird flu is the story with respect to chicken and egg prices, and we don't have a handle on that either.
So you think the Fed's plans to cut rates is going to be on hold because of all this inflation?
Well, the Fed, to be precise, does not have a plan to cut rates per se, because the data doesn't support that. Chairman Powell and his colleagues would be saying that they believe rates are in generally a good place, that they're still restrictive. And when you have inflation, you want rates to be restrictive. You also want to have a job market that's performing reasonably well. And of course, we've seen the unemployment rate move down along with cooler hiring of late. The big question really going forward, aside from all these contributors to inflation, is what are the impacts of tariffs and deportations on the economy? And that's one of the reasons why Chairman Powell and his colleagues are frankly unwilling to say what they think the impacts may be, because they don't know how those things are going to be implemented. And most of all, they don't know the impacts that they will have on the economy.
Mark, does the Fed have any other ways, or any way really, to fight inflation other than raising rates?
Well, the primary tool in its monetary policy toolbox is by changing its benchmark rate. And we saw that they moved eventually in response to the highest inflation in decades, when we saw the consumer price index up 9.1% in the summer of 2020. They moved very aggressively then, but critics would say they were slow to move. And of course, then they began to cut rates last year, all the while not declaring mission accomplished. But that is the primary means. If we were in the midst of a financial crisis, they would have other tools to utilize, but that's not the situation right now.
All right, Mark Hamrick, we thank you so much for your analysis, as always. God bless.
Thank you.
Up next, violence and discrimination. Anti-Semitism is surging in Great Britain, why some Jews say it's time to leave. Next on Faith Nation. Welcome back. Great Britain has long been regarded as a safe haven for the Jewish people. Since the October 7th attacks on Israel, however, anti-Semitic acts have skyrocketed. In fact, a recent poll shows that most British Jews have considered leaving the country. Dale Hurd brings us this story from London.
This is the United Kingdom that British Jews experience today.
Zionists, they are filthy animals.
Like obedient sheep, you obey Israel.
The whole condemning Hamas, I'm not going to condemn them, and Israel doesn't exist.
Most British Jews now no longer believe they have a future here. Recent polling has also found that most Jews hide their Jewishness in public and do not feel welcome in the United Kingdom. Gideon Falter is chief executive of Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, which commissioned the poll and has been documenting the rising Jew hatred.
A lot of people have talked about whether they have a future in this country. Do I think the Jewish community in the UK is going to evaporate? No. But I do think there is a sizable conversation now happening within the community of people saying, okay, is this the place that we've got a future?
There were nearly 2,000 anti-Semitic incidents reported in the first half of 2024, the highest number ever recorded for a 6-month period. 9 out of 10 British Jews say the government is not doing enough to stop the violence and discrimination.
I know some who have left. I know some who are actively, seriously looking at leaving.
Jewish investigative journalist David Collier tells us he constantly feels the anti-Jewish hate.
I get death threats every single day, but I'm also being contacted by Jews either who are having trouble at work, at home, students.
What brings you both out here today?
Well, just the amount of anti-Semitism we've had in Oxford for the past year has been really awful. We've had swastikas, we've had Jews being accused of weaponising anti-Semitism.
We've been told we're not welcome at the university.
Yeah, and it just...
down the streets.
It's been escalating, and this is the big message. It's about the escalation, you know, it's getting gradually worse.
This in a nation where the adopted national song is Jerusalem. In the song Jerusalem, the British sing, "We will not cease till we have built Jerusalem in England's green and pleasant land." But this Judeo-Christian connection that goes back centuries has begun to fray. Surveys show British Jews consider Islamists to be the most serious threat. And in a close second is the far left. Falter adds the nation's young people are being indoctrinated against Jews.
They are becoming radicalized on the internet. They are imbibing bigotries that their parents themselves don't have. And then they're teaching this from one kid to another kid. We've got a generation which is extremely hateful. And not just hateful, they're extremists.
Some non-Jews have seen the danger and are publicly supporting Britain's Jews. Mark Burbeck began the group Our Fight after he witnessed the lack of public support for Jews in Israel following the October 7th massacre.
Shock at the lack of empathy that people had for the Israeli people, the Jewish people after October the 7th. In that period, a few of us were going to these vigils that were being organised by the Israeli community, and we sort of thought, we need to do something.
Another group supporting Britain's Jews is Christian Action Against Anti-Semitism, led by pastors Tim and Haley Gutman.
Our heart was to do something publicly that showed the Jewish people we stand with them, we love them, we're with them in solidarity. They're not alone, especially amidst this rising anti-Semitism.
David Collier is afraid demographics have already decided the future course of Britain's Jews. The most popular name for baby boys in Britain today is Mohammed.
It's a completely different country. The entire dynamic has changed, the entire atmosphere has changed, both towards Israel and in extension towards the Jewish community. It's completely different. It's a different country with a different demographic, a different outlook. Everything about it is different. You're talking to these Jewish people, and you know that things are only going to get worse for them, not better. There's no way back for the United Kingdom from this point. As far as I see it, no way back.
Falter has decided to stand and fight for the future, with the hope that more non-Jews will join him.
I think a lot of people don't realize how anti-Semitism relates to them, but they don't see it as something that's going to actually hit home, hit them. Whatever happens with anti-Semitism in this country, if extremism continues to surge in the way that it is now, this country's in for dark days, and so is the West.
Dale Hurd, CBN News, London.
Thank you, Dale, for that. Well, coming up, a day at Disney after a Super Bowl victory. That's next on Faith Nation. Finally tonight, the Super Bowl MVP takes on Disney World. Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts observed the decades-long tradition of celebrating a Super Bowl victory at, you guessed it, the happiest place on earth. The Disney trip comes after the Eagles' 40-22 victory over the Kansas City Chiefs during Sunday's championship game. Not a great game, but hey.
After achieving a lifelong dream of just a vision of trying to be the best that I can be and ultimately be the best leader I can be for my teammates, to celebrate what we've been able to accomplish here, it means everything.
The 26-year-old quarterback led the victory parade alongside Mickey Mouse at Magic Kingdom. Boy, I used to go there all the time when I was little. We lived in Orlando, so it was right in my backyard. Well, that's going to do it for us. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day, and God bless you.